Ethan stepped onto the surface of Varelia with careful precision. Each step sank slightly into the crystalline soil, which shimmered like a frozen river under the pale light of the twin suns. The air was strange, thin, carrying faint electrical charges that made the hair on his arms stand. His human lungs adjusted slowly, each breath slightly sharp, but manageable. He had trained for this. He had crossed half the galaxy for this moment. Ahead, towering spires of crystal stretched toward the sky, sharp and glowing faintly from within. The structures were alive in a way, or at least seemed so, pulsing as if they had a heartbeat. Ethan paused, taking a slow breath, adjusting the straps on his exploration pack. Inside it, tools, supplies, and the most important item, a small device he carried carefully in one hand. Its soft hum was barely audible, but it vibrated with potential, ready to reveal secrets no one had yet unlocked. From above, a shadow detached itself from the shimmering light. Kaelara moved with the grace of a predator, her scales catching sunlight in 1,000 colors. Her eyes were sharp, luminous, and intelligent. She landed a few meters from Ethan with the faintest hum of her anti-gravity boots, giving the ground only the softest impact. She was tall, taller than any human, but her presence felt lighter, more controlled. "You really think you belong here?" Kaelara asked, her voice musical and cold. The words cut through the quiet hum of the alien environment. Her tone held amusement, mocking, as if a single glance could decide the fate of her prey. She circled him slowly, a predator inspecting something curious, yet unworthy. Her claws clicked softly on the crystalline surface, each sound deliberate, calculated. Ethan looked up at her, and for the first time she saw no fear in his expression. Only calm. Only purpose. He adjusted the device in his hand, pressing it lightly so the internal lights glowed faintly, reflecting off the alien structures around them. Kaelara tilted her head, the corner of her mouth curling in what could have been a smile, or a sneer. "You look fragile," she said. "Your kind survives by luck or by hiding behind machines. Do you truly think you can face what this planet hides?" Ethan's smile was subtle. "Maybe. Or maybe I'm more than you expect." Her eyes narrowed, glittering in suspicion. This human had audacity, a quality rare in the cosmos. Most humans were too cautious, too fearful to step into the unknown without armies or fleets. And yet, here he was, alone. "You carry something," Kaelara said, her tone laced with curiosity now, mixing with a hint of challenge. "Show me. What is it?" Ethan held the small device firmly. Its metallic surface reflected the alien sunlight, and small lines of glowing blue light traveled across it like circuits coming alive. "It's a mapping tool," he said casually, as if it were a simple instrument. "It can track energy flows, structural weaknesses, and hidden patterns beneath the surface." Kaelara laughed softly, a sound like crystal breaking. "A toy. You think this little thing can do what my kind cannot? My species has lived here for thousands of cycles. We know every current, every crystal, every secret. You are nothing but a visitor. And your toy is meaningless." Ethan studied her for a moment, noting her pride, her overconfidence. He did not flinch. He did not hesitate. "We'll see," he said. He tapped the device again. A faint holographic glow emerged, projecting a three-dimensional map of the surrounding landscape. Lines of energy pulsed in real time, flowing beneath the surface, weaving through the crystalline spires, circling around hidden chambers that even Kaelara had not indicated. Kaelara froze. She looked at the projection, then back at the human. Her amusement faltered, replaced by curiosity, and something like disbelief. The device's readings moved fluidly, accurately, and illuminated patterns that her own sensors had missed. A hum of excitement, or perhaps alarm, rippled through the air as other Virelians, previously hidden, began to gather, watching silently from above. "You... how?" Kylara asked, her voice sharp, tinged with incredulity. She took a step closer, ignoring the warning in her own instincts. No human had ever done this. None had ever approached the depths of Virelia's energy without protective fleets or invasive machines. Ethan's hand was steady, his gaze unwavering. "I've learned to observe. I've learned to think. Machines are only tools. A mind can understand what machines cannot." The other Virelians moved cautiously, whispering in their musical language, unable to comprehend fully the human's confidence. Kylara circled again, slower this time, her head tilted, examining him like a complex puzzle. She noticed the subtle movements in his fingers, the careful adjustments to the device, the deliberate posture that suggested neither fear nor arrogance, but control. "You are bold, human," she said. Her voice lacked mockery now, replaced by wary acknowledgement. "You dare to enter our sacred grounds alone, carrying what you do not fully understand, and yet you proceed as if you command the place." Ethan nodded. "I respect your planet. I do not intend to destroy it. I came to understand it, and this device helps me do that." The air between them was electric. The twin suns of Virelia cast long shadows on the crystal landscape. The human and the alien stood still, each aware of the other's capabilities, each assessing the other's intent. Around them, the crystalline spires pulsed faintly, almost as if the planet itself was watching, sensing the tension and curiosity in the encounter. Kylara studied him more carefully now. For centuries, her people had dominated the surface of Virelia. Visitors were rare, almost unheard of, and none had approached with such quiet determination. She had expected fear, panic, hesitation. She had expected the human to crumble under the weight of her scrutiny. Instead, he stood tall, steady, unwavering. "Do you even know what lies beneath?" she asked, more seriously now. "The energy flows are unstable. The currents can tear through you in moments. No human has survived even half a cycle here without protection." Ethan's fingers tightened slightly around the device, his calm demeanor unbroken. "I've accounted for it," he said. "I am careful, and I understand the risks. That is why I am here, to learn, to observe, to survive." Kylara's eyes flickered with something she had not anticipated. Respect. Not the shallow respect granted out of politeness, but a grudging admiration for the courage, intelligence, and precision the human displayed. Most species would have fled or trembled at her presence. Most would have left the device useless, locked away, or destroyed out of fear. "You are strange," she said finally, a whisper to herself. Then louder, for him to hear, she added, "Perhaps you are cleverer than I thought. But cleverness alone will not save you. Your little device will not protect you from what lies ahead." Ethan studied the holographic map, adjusting it with quick, practiced movements. The lines of energy pulsed in predictable patterns, revealing hidden pathways and protective currents beneath the surface. "I do not seek protection from it," he said. "I seek understanding. That is enough." Kylara looked at him again. Her previous amusement replaced by a storm of emotions, curiosity, intrigue, skepticism, and the faintest hint of fear. The human was unafraid, unflinching, yet aware. That combination, she realized slowly, was dangerous. Dangerous not because of raw strength, but because it could outmatch everything her species had relied upon for centuries. Caution, knowledge, dominance. The wind shifted across the crystalline plains, sending tiny sparks of energy dancing in the air. Kylara felt the faint vibration, almost like a warning. The planet itself seemed to sense the presence of the human, acknowledging his courage, his intelligence, and the device he carried. Ethan, unaware of the silent recognition, continued to scan the area, observing the faint energy lines that others had missed, noting every risk, every anomaly. "You persist." "Human," Kaelara said, finally letting some of her curiosity show. "Even knowing the danger, you continue." Ethan looked up and met her gaze. "I persist because there is value in understanding, in facing danger with knowledge, and in proving that humans can rise to challenges that seem impossible." The other Varelians, watching from the edges of the crystalline spires, shifted nervously. The human carried no weapons, no shields, only a device and his mind. Yet the confidence he radiated seemed to fill the air with an unspoken power. Kaelara, who had once mocked him openly, now stood silent, reassessing everything she knew about humans. The wind carried a new intensity, and the planet seemed to pulse more strongly beneath their feet. Ethan's device hummed in response, sensing the currents and patterns that others could not perceive. Kaelara stepped closer, her pride fighting with the reluctant respect growing inside her. "You are unusual, human," she said softly. "Most would have fled. Most would have been afraid. You stand here, facing everything, carrying what you do not yet understand, and yet you move forward." Ethan nodded, adjusting the device once more. "I have learned that fear is a guide, not a barrier. It shows what must be approached carefully, what must be understood, but it should never stop action or curiosity." Kaelara stared at him in silence, the weight of his words settling. For the first time, she wondered if perhaps the legends of humanity had underestimated what a single mind, one hand, and one device could accomplish on a world like Virelia. The twin suns continued their slow descent across the sky, casting long shadows that danced on the crystalline plains. A quiet hum of energy pulsed through the air, and the human and the alien stood facing one another, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. This encounter, brief as it had begun, would mark the start of something neither fully understood yet. But both sensed the potential. Ethan lifted the device slightly, the holographic map glowing brighter. Kaelara's eyes widened at the intricate patterns it revealed, the currents and pathways beneath the surface, the secrets that had been hidden for centuries. "You may survive longer than I expected," she said finally, her voice softer now, tinged with curiosity rather than mockery. "But do not mistake your cleverness for mastery. The planet still tests all who walk upon it." Ethan smiled faintly, not out of arrogance, but with quiet confidence. "Then let the test begin." The wind carried a faint electric crackle across the crystalline plains. Somewhere deep below, currents shifted, responding to the device's readings. Ethan adjusted his stance, prepared to explore further, to face whatever challenges the planet offered. Kaelara, for the first time in centuries, regarded a human with both caution and respect. And in that silent moment, the first step of an extraordinary encounter was complete. Ethan had been observing the currents beneath Virelia for hours. The small device in his hand glowed faintly, each line of light mapping the hidden flows of energy that ran deep beneath the crystalline surface. He moved slowly, carefully, testing the limits of the ground beneath him. Some crystals hummed in resonance with the device, while others remained silent, hiding unknown patterns. Every step was a calculation, every breath a measure of control. He was not reckless. Humans survived through intelligence as much as courage, and he intended to prove both. Kaelara followed from a distance, her movements silent but watchful. Her pride still urged her to keep her distance, to challenge him openly, but curiosity had taken root. She observed how he interacted with the environment, how he adjusted the device to measure angles, resonance, and energy spikes. Most of her species would have ignored these subtleties, dismissing them as inconsequential. but the human seemed to understand them instinctively. His mind worked differently, faster, more adaptive, and more creative than she had anticipated. The wind shifted again, carrying sharp electric tinges that made the crystals pulse in response. Ethan noticed the shift immediately. He crouched low, scanning the ground. A fissure had opened slightly ahead, cracks forming along the crystal's surface. The energy currents beneath had shifted unexpectedly. He adjusted the device, pressing a series of buttons that projected a wider holographic map, showing hidden tunnels, energy nodes, and dangerous currents. Kaylara stepped closer, her pride warring with fascination. "You are precise," she admitted, almost reluctantly. "Most humans would panic or run when the currents shift. Yet you adapt immediately." Ethan nodded without looking at her. "Fear can be helpful," he said, his voice calm. "It tells you where the risk lies. The rest is calculation." The fissure grew larger, glowing ominously as energy surged from the cracks. Sparks danced across the crystalline surface, sending miniature arcs of light into the air. Ethan moved carefully, his boots making minimal sound on the delicate surface. With the device in hand, he analyzed the currents and plotted a safe path across the unstable ground. Kaylara's tail flicked nervously behind her. Even she had to admit that navigating such a zone required more than strength or experience. It required careful thought, observation, and ingenuity. The human had both. "You really understand it," she said softly, almost to herself. "It is not just a tool in your hand, it is your extension, your mind made visible." Ethan glanced up briefly, meeting her gaze. "We humans rely on our tools, yes, but we also rely on ourselves to see what the tools cannot. This planet, it has patterns, rhythms. Once you understand them, you can move safely, even through what seems impossible." Kaylara fell silent. She had always believed her species' understanding of Virelia was complete. Her people had studied the energy currents, mapped the crystalline layers, and claimed mastery over the planet. Yet here was a human, alone, using a small device and his mind to reveal secrets that even her kind had overlooked. The fissure ahead widened, threatening to block the path entirely. Ethan paused, his brow furrowed in concentration. He adjusted the device, scanning for alternative routes, hidden supports, and energy nodes that could stabilize the area. The holographic projection revealed a narrow bridge of crystal beneath the surface, invisible to the naked eye. The energy lines hummed along it, stable enough to support his weight if he moved carefully. Kaylara's eyes widened. "You see it," she whispered. "You see what I cannot." Ethan smiled faintly. "It is not magic. It is observation, analysis, and patience." He stepped forward carefully, following the invisible bridge, his body balanced and precise. The crystals beneath vibrated faintly, acknowledging his careful movement. Sparks leapt around him, but he ignored them, focused entirely on the readings from his device. Kaylara followed at a cautious distance, her pride still intact, but her curiosity growing. She could not deny the skill, intelligence, and courage the human displayed. Hours passed as Ethan navigated the unstable terrain. He discovered hidden chambers beneath the surface, tunnels of energy that pulsed in patterns unlike anything Kaylara had recorded. He made careful notes, adjusting the device to record each anomaly, each fluctuation in the currents. The holographic projection became increasingly detailed, a living map of hidden power beneath the planet. Kaylara began to speak less, observing more. She saw the patience, the focus, and the adaptability that the human displayed. Unlike her species, who relied on instinct, tradition, and pride, Ethan relied on calculation, creativity, and courage. Every decision he made was deliberate, yet flexible, adapting instantly to changing conditions. "You are more than I imagined," she admitted finally, almost reluctantly. You are clever. Ethan looked at her, his calm gaze unwavering. Cleverness is not enough. Observation and adaptation are what matter. That is how we survive. A sudden surge of energy erupted from the fissure, sending sparks and shock waves across the crystalline plains. Ethan reacted immediately, adjusting the device to map the currents in real time, identifying safe paths, and stabilizing the energy flows temporarily with the holographic projections. The surge passed without harm, leaving Kalara momentarily speechless. You survived that, she said finally, her voice soft with disbelief. No one has ever done that before. Ethan nodded, adjusting his pack and moving forward again. Survival is not about avoiding danger. It is about understanding it and responding. The journey continued, each step revealing more secrets of the planet. Ethan discovered hidden energy nodes, tunnels beneath the surface, and crystalline patterns that resonated in perfect harmony. The device in his hand responded to every fluctuation, projecting maps, graphs, and energy flows that allowed him to navigate safely. Kalara followed silently, no longer mocking. She watched as the humans solved problems she would have assumed impossible. He bridged gaps with ingenuity, avoided hazards with precision, and adjusted instantly to changes she could not anticipate. The legends of human frailty, she realized slowly, were false. This human carried something far greater than physical strength. He carried intelligence, courage, and an indomitable mind. Hours turned into cycles as they moved deeper into the planet's crystalline heart. The currents grew more complex, the energy more volatile. Yet Ethan moved with confidence, his device guiding him through the hazards. He discovered hidden chambers filled with energy crystals, tunnels that pulsed with power, and patterns that seemed alive. Every discovery added to his map, expanding the holographic projection into a detailed representation of the planet's hidden systems. Kalara watched, fascinated. Her species had lived here for centuries, yet even they had missed these details. The human had unveiled layers of knowledge that her kind had taken generations to uncover, or never noticed at all. She began to realize that perhaps humans were underestimated across the galaxy, not because of weakness, but because their strength was subtle, hidden in observation, adaptability, and intelligence. You are different, Kalara said softly, almost to herself. You do not fear the unknown. You understand it and you move through it as if it were part of you. Ethan looked at her briefly. Understanding is the first step. Fear has its place, but it should not dominate action. Curiosity and careful thought guide true progress. The path ahead narrowed into a canyon of towering crystal walls. Sparks leapt from the walls, arcs of energy dancing dangerously close. Ethan adjusted his device, projecting a safe route through the canyon. Every step was calculated, every movement precise. Kalara followed cautiously, keeping a distance but unable to look away. Midway through the canyon, a sudden quake shook the crystals, dislodging shards and sending energy pulses through the walls. Ethan reacted immediately, stabilizing the area using his device and moving with agility and calm focus. The holographic map displayed weak points in the crystal structure, allowing him to anticipate hazards before they became threats. Kalara felt a wave of awe. She had never seen a human handle danger with such combination of intelligence, bravery, and composure. Her species relied on instinct, aggression, and tradition. Yet here was a human who faced danger not with raw force, but with thought, observation, and courage. You are remarkable, she said finally, her voice carrying both admiration and disbelief. Even if you fail, I cannot deny your skill. Ethan smiled faintly. I do not seek to impress, I seek to understand. Knowledge is the true reward. As they continued, the currents beneath the planet became stronger, more erratic. Hidden energy spikes threatened to destabilize the crystalline structures. Yet Ethan moved with confidence, adjusting the device, recording data, and plotting safe paths. Kalara observed silently, realizing that humans possessed a kind of resilience that her species rarely recognized. Resilience born not of physical strength, but of courage, ingenuity, and understanding. By the end of the cycle, they reached a vast chamber beneath the surface, a hidden sanctuary of energy nodes and crystalline spires. The air hummed with power, and the energy flowed in patterns that no Varelian had ever fully mapped. Ethan activated his device fully, projecting a detailed holographic map of the entire chamber. The patterns of energy were clear, harmonious, and alive. Kalara stepped closer, her pride now mixed with deep curiosity. She examined the map, seeing for the first time the precision, insight, and courage of the human before her. "You carry more than a device," she said softly. "You carry understanding, courage, and intelligence beyond what I expected from your kind." Ethan looked at her calmly, holding the glowing device steady. "It is not just the device. It is thought, observation, and determination. That is what allows any being, human or otherwise, to navigate the unknown." The chamber pulsed with energy around them, as if acknowledging the human's presence, recognizing the skill, courage, and mind that had brought him this far. Kalara watched, silently reassessing everything she knew about humanity. For the first time, she wondered if humans were more capable than her species had ever given them credit for. And in that quiet realization, a new respect began to grow, a respect born not of fear, but of admiration for courage, intelligence, and the indomitable human spirit. The energy in the hidden chamber pulsed rhythmically, almost like a living heartbeat. Ethan studied the intricate network of crystalline spires and energy nodes projected from his device, his mind calculating patterns and flows at a speed that would have been impossible for most. Each line of energy told a story of stability, imbalance, danger, and potential. He had come far, deeper than any human had dared, yet he knew that this was only the beginning. Kalara watched him from a few steps away, her scales reflecting the soft glow of the crystals. Her pride had shifted into something new, a mix of caution, curiosity, and growing respect. She had mocked him at first, certain that the human would crumble beneath Varelia's challenges. Now she realized that she had underestimated him completely. There was something in his calm determination, his patient observation, and his precise movements that no Varelian had anticipated. "You move as if the currents speak to you," she said softly, her voice carrying both disbelief and admiration. "Most of my kind could not read them. They would have been destroyed long ago." Ethan glanced at her, adjusting a dial on the device. "They do speak," he said simply. "If you take the time to listen, to watch, and to think, they tell you everything you need to know. Strength and speed matter, but understanding matters more." Kalara's eyes flickered. She had spent centuries mastering the flows of Varelia's energy, yet this human was interpreting patterns she had overlooked. The realization was humbling. Pride battled with admiration in her mind, but she could not deny what she saw. The chamber grew warmer, the energy flows intensifying. Ethan sensed the subtle change immediately, feeling it through the vibrations beneath his boots and the faint hum of the device in his hand. He knelt briefly, scanning the floor for anomalies. Tiny fissures had begun to form around some of the largest crystals. If they continued unchecked, they could destabilize the entire chamber. Kalara's tail twitched nervously. "You cannot stop it alone," she said. "The currents are unpredictable here. One mistake could collapse the entire network." Ethan's fingers danced over the device, adjusting settings and analyzing the energy flows. "I do not intend to stop it," he said calmly. "I intend to guide it." The Varelian blinked in surprise. "Guide it? That is impossible. The flows are chaotic. You cannot control them." Ethan shook his head. "Control is a narrow word. Understanding and influence are different. Once you see the patterns, you can move with them, not against them." With careful precision, he began to recalibrate the energy nodes using the device. A faint blue light extended from the tool, connecting to the crystals and flowing along the hidden currents. The energy responded, stabilizing slightly under his influence. Sparks danced harmlessly around him, harmless because he anticipated their path, their power, and their timing. Kalara stepped closer, unable to look away. You can manipulate it without destroying it," she whispered, almost in awe. "No human or Varelian has ever done this." Ethan nodded, his focus unbroken. "It is about patience and observation. One wrong move, and it could all collapse. But the right move can reveal new possibilities." The chamber trembled slightly, warning them of instability ahead. Ethan's device hummed more strongly, highlighting areas of concern in bright lines across the holographic projection. He adjusted his stance, leaning carefully, and extended the device toward a particularly unstable cluster of crystals. The energy shifted gently, responding to the subtle guidance, stabilizing without violent release. Kalara's jaw dropped. She had never seen such precision, such harmony with the planet's unpredictable energy. Her admiration grew, tempered by caution. "You are beyond clever," she said softly. "You are extraordinary." Ethan smiled faintly, continuing his work. "It is not about being extraordinary. It is about learning and applying knowledge. Intelligence is the most powerful tool of all." Hours passed as he moved carefully through the chamber, guiding the energy flows, mapping hidden tunnels, and stabilizing unstable zones. Kalara followed silently, no longer mocking, no longer doubting, but observing. The human's courage, patience, and intellect were unlike anything she had encountered. She realized that perhaps humans had been underestimated across the galaxy, not for their strength, but for their minds and their unshakable determination. Suddenly, a surge of raw energy erupted from the largest cluster of crystals. The chamber shook violently, sending shards of crystal flying in all directions. Ethan reacted immediately, analyzing the surge through his device, plotting safe pathways, and guiding the currents to diffuse the energy. Sparks leapt dangerously close, but he moved with precise calculation, stabilizing the flow without harming himself or the chamber. Kalara gasped, her scales shimmering with tension. "No one has ever survived that," she exclaimed. "Even the strongest Varelian would have been destroyed." Ethan's gaze remained calm, his hands steady on the device. "Understanding allows survival," he said simply. "It is not about avoiding danger. It is about moving with it, not against it." As the surge subsided, the chamber fell silent again, save for the faint hum of energy flowing through the crystals. Ethan's device displayed a detailed map, highlighting safe zones, energy nodes, and hidden pathways that no Varelian had ever recorded. Kalara stepped closer, her pride now tempered by awe. "You carry more than a device," she said softly. "You carry knowledge, courage, and insight. Your mind is as sharp as the crystals themselves." Ethan nodded, adjusting the holographic projection. "It is not the device alone. It is observation, analysis, and careful thought. That combination allows survival in any environment." The chamber's energy flows shifted again, more subtly this time. Ethan sensed it immediately, feeling the vibrations through the crystalline floor and the soft hum of the device. He moved quickly, recalibrating the currents and stabilizing weak points. The process was delicate, requiring constant attention and precise timing. Kaelara watched in fascination. She had always relied on instinct, strength, and experience to navigate the planet's energy. Yet this human relied on something deeper: intelligence, patience, and the ability to adapt instantly to changing conditions. She began to understand that humans were not weak or fragile. They were resilient, inventive, and capable of remarkable feats when their minds and courage were applied fully. "You are unlike any human I have heard of," she said softly. "You do not fear the unknown. You embrace it and you move through it with skill and patience." Ethan glanced at her briefly. "Fear has its purpose," he said. "It tells you where danger lies, but it should never stop action. Curiosity and understanding guide true progress." The chamber grew brighter as he activated the device fully, projecting a complex network of energy flows, tunnels, and crystalline nodes. Each line glowed with clarity, revealing hidden structures and previously unknown pathways. Kaelara examined it carefully, her pride yielding to wonder. No Varelian had ever mapped the chamber so completely. "You are a master of observation," she admitted, her voice soft. "And yet you are only beginning. Even now you have uncovered secrets that my people have missed for centuries." Ethan smiled faintly, adjusting his device to capture more data. "Understanding is endless. The more you observe, the more you realize there is to learn. That is the way of progress." The chamber's energy began to resonate more strongly, responding to the human's presence and the device's guidance. Sparks danced harmlessly across the crystalline floor, arcs of energy leaping from one spire to another in controlled patterns. Ethan moved carefully, adjusting the device, recording every anomaly, every flow, and every potential hazard. Kaelara followed silently, unable to tear her eyes away. She had begun the day mocking him, confident in her superiority. Now, after hours of observation, she could not deny the human's skill, intelligence, and courage. She realized that humans were underestimated not because of weakness, but because their strength was subtle, hidden in observation, adaptability, and unshakable determination. Suddenly, a larger surge of energy erupted from the chamber's core, sending violent arcs of electricity across the crystalline floor. Ethan reacted instantly, analyzing the currents and plotting a safe path. He adjusted the device, guiding the energy along safe channels and stabilizing the flow without harm. Sparks flew dangerously close, but he remained calm, precise, and focused. Kaelara stepped back, her scales trembling. "You survived that!" she exclaimed. "No one should have survived that!" Ethan looked at her calmly. "It is not survival alone," he said. "It is understanding, observation, and action. That combination allows even the impossible to succeed." The chamber pulsed with energy around them, almost as if the planet itself was acknowledging the human's presence. Kaelara's pride had been replaced by something new, a quiet respect that grew with every action, every calculation, and every daring move Ethan made. She realized that the legends of human weakness were false. Humans could be extraordinary when their courage, intelligence, and persistence were fully applied. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the hum of energy and the soft clicks of the device. Ethan had mapped the chamber completely, stabilizing the energy flows, uncovering hidden tunnels, and documenting patterns that no Varelian had ever seen. Kaelara watched in awe, her respect for the human deepening with each passing moment. "You carry not just a device," she said softly, her voice reverent. "You carry understanding, courage, and insight beyond anything my species has recognized. You are extraordinary." Ethan nodded, adjusting the device once more. "It is not extraordinary. It is observation, intelligence, and patience. That is what allows any being, human or otherwise, to face the unknown and succeed." For the first time, Kalara truly understood the human before her. He was not merely a visitor. He was a force of intellect and courage, capable of facing dangers that her species had long feared. And in that moment she realized that humanity was more than she had ever imagined. The chamber pulsed around them, acknowledging the human's presence, his skill, and his courage. Kalara stepped closer, her scales shimmering in the energy. "You have changed my understanding," she said softly. "I can no longer doubt your kind." Ethan looked at her calmly, his device glowing faintly in his hand. "Knowledge and courage change perceptions," he said simply. "That is the way of progress." The chamber fell into a quiet resonance, the energy flowing smoothly under Ethan's guidance. Kalara watched silently, no longer mocking, no longer doubtful, but filled with respect and awe. She knew that this encounter would mark a turning point, not just for the human, but for her understanding of an entire species. Ethan stepped forward into the heart of the crystalline chamber, the glow of his device reflecting off the towering spires that surrounded him. The patterns of energy beneath the surface were stronger here, more volatile, but also more beautiful. Lines of power weaving in intricate rhythms, pulsing like the pulse of a living organism. Every step required careful attention, every movement measured. He had come this far, and now he had to prove not just his intelligence, but his courage, patience, and endurance. Kalara followed closely, though now without mockery or doubt. She had watched him navigate impossible currents, survive violent surges, and map hidden networks of energy with precision no Varelian had ever achieved. She had seen his mind and courage, and though she had started the day expecting amusement, she now felt respect, fascination, and a quiet sense of awe. "You move as if you belong here," Kalara said softly, her voice echoing through the crystalline chamber. "Most of my species would crumble before the currents you face. Yet you walk through them as if guided by the planet itself." Ethan glanced at her briefly, adjusting the device. "The planet does guide," he said. "You just have to learn to listen." The energy in the chamber pulsed stronger, responding to his presence and to the adjustments he made with the device. Sparks leapt in graceful arcs across the crystalline floor, but Ethan moved with calm precision, avoiding each hazard, stabilizing the flows, and observing the subtle changes in the energy lines. Each adjustment was deliberate, informed by the careful study he had conducted over countless hours. Kalara followed silently, her pride now tempered by admiration. She realized that this human had qualities her species rarely recognized: intelligence, courage, and a relentless determination. Unlike most who relied solely on instinct or tradition, Ethan combined observation, adaptability, and patience to survive and thrive in ways the Varelians could barely imagine. As they approached the central spire of the chamber, a sudden surge of energy erupted from deep within the crystal network. Waves of light cascaded in arcs, sending sparks and jolts across the floor. Ethan reacted instantly, analyzing the surge through the device, projecting the currents and calculating safe paths. He adjusted the flow carefully, guiding the energy away from unstable zones, stabilizing the network just enough to prevent catastrophe. Kalara's eyes widened. "No one should survive that," she exclaimed. "Even the strongest Varelian would have been destroyed." Ethan's gaze remained calm. "Understanding and precise action allow survival," he said simply. "Strength alone is not enough. Observation, intelligence, and patience matter more than raw power." The energy subsided, leaving the chamber glowing with an ethereal light. Ethan's device projected a complete holographic map of the central spire and its surrounding currents. The lines pulsed gently, indicating stability and hidden potential. He studied it carefully, noting areas that required further guidance and those that could remain untouched. "You carry more than a device," Kalara said softly, stepping closer. "You carry insight, courage, and skill beyond anything I expected. Even my people could not navigate this chamber as you do." Ethan nodded, adjusting the holographic map. "It is not the device alone. It is understanding, patience, and observation. Those are what allow anyone to face challenges that seem impossible." The chamber's energy pulsed again, more gently this time, as if acknowledging the human's skill. Ethan began to move deeper into the central spire, navigating narrow crystalline ledges and avoiding the subtle currents that could destabilize the structure. Each movement was deliberate, calculated, and careful. He projected the energy flows in front of him, visualizing the safe paths and adjusting instantly when new surges appeared. Kalara watched, unable to look away. She had started the day mocking him, certain he would fail, certain that his human fragility would end the encounter. Now she realized how wrong she had been. The human before her carried intelligence, courage, and resilience that no Varelian could match. "You are extraordinary," she admitted softly. "Even if you fail, I cannot deny your skill." Ethan smiled faintly, continuing his work. "It is not about being extraordinary," he said. "It is about careful thought, observation, and persistence. That is how progress is made." Hours passed as he moved through the central spire, stabilizing energy nodes, mapping hidden tunnels, and documenting patterns that even Kalara had never seen. Sparks danced harmlessly across the floor, arcs of energy leapt between crystals, and the chamber's hum shifted in rhythm with his actions. Each success, each precise adjustment added to the map, creating a detailed representation of the spire's complex network. Kalara stepped closer, her pride giving way to admiration. "You have changed my understanding," she said. "I can no longer underestimate your kind. You carry intelligence, courage, and patience that surpass anything my species has recognized." Ethan nodded, his focus still on the device. "Understanding allows survival," he said. "Courage and observation allow progress. Knowledge and action together create possibilities that fear and strength alone cannot achieve." The central spire pulsed more strongly as he reached the final section of the chamber. The energy here was intense, almost overwhelming, and the currents shifted unpredictably. Sparks shot across the floor, arcs of energy dancing dangerously close. Ethan adjusted the device, analyzing every shift, mapping the safe zones, and plotting a careful path through the volatile area. Kalara's tail flicked nervously. "This is dangerous," she said. "One mistake, and the entire spire could collapse. Even the most skilled Varelian could not survive here." Ethan's hands moved quickly but deliberately, guiding the energy flows, stabilizing weak points, and navigating the currents with precision. Sparks arced harmlessly around him, energy pulses responded to his adjustments, and the spire remained intact. Each movement was calculated, informed by observation and intelligence rather than brute strength. Kalara watched in awe. She realized fully now that humans were underestimated across the galaxy, not because they lacked power, but because their true strength was subtle, hidden in observation, intelligence, and resilience. This human had proved it through action, courage, and understanding. "You have accomplished what no one else could," she said softly. "You carry not just a device, but knowledge, courage, and insight beyond anything my species has seen." Ethan adjusted the device one final time, stabilizing the central spire completely. The energy flowed smoothly, the currents pulsed harmoniously, and the chamber glowed with a soft, steady light. He took a deep breath, satisfied with the results of hours of careful observation, calculation, and action. Kalara stepped closer, her scales shimmering in the soft light. She extended a hand, her gesture both cautious and respectful. "You have earned not just my respect, but the recognition of my species," she said. "Your courage, intelligence, and patience are remarkable. I have underestimated humanity, and now I see the truth." Ethan looked at her calmly, holding the device steady. "Knowledge and courage change perceptions," he said simply. "That is the way of progress." The chamber pulsed softly, almost as if acknowledging his words. Sparks danced in harmonious patterns across the crystalline floor, the currents flowed smoothly, and the central spire stood strong. Kaelara studied him, her pride fully replaced by admiration, and a sense of respect she had never felt before for a human. "You have proven that even a single human can achieve what my species has never managed," she said. "You have faced the impossible and succeeded. That is courage beyond measure." Ethan nodded. "It is not just courage. It is observation, understanding, and patience. That combination allows anyone to face challenges that seem insurmountable." Kaelara smiled faintly, a rare and genuine expression. She extended her hand fully, offering a gesture of trust and respect. "Then let this be the beginning," she said. "Let our species learn from each other. You have shown that humans are capable of more than I imagined." Ethan accepted her gesture, holding out the device in a symbolic act of collaboration. The holographic map of the chamber's energy flows shimmered between them, a testament to what could be achieved through intelligence, patience, and courage. "You have changed my perception," Kaelara said softly. "No longer will I doubt humans. You carry the mind, the courage, and the determination to face the unknown and succeed." Ethan smiled faintly, his eyes calm. "It is not about changing perception," he said. "It is about learning, understanding, and applying knowledge. That is how progress is made, no matter who you are or where you come from." The chamber's energy pulsed one final time, harmonizing with the device, the currents flowing perfectly. Ethan's work was complete. He had mapped the hidden networks, stabilized the volatile currents, and proven that even in the heart of a dangerous world, observation, intelligence, and courage could overcome fear and chaos. Kaelara stepped back, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the crystals. She had witnessed the impossible, the extraordinary. A human had navigated the heart of Viralia, survived its dangers, and revealed its secrets. She had begun the day mocking him, but she now regarded him with a mixture of respect, admiration, and awe. "You have carried more than a device," she said finally. "You have carried understanding, courage, and the spirit of discovery. You have proven that humans are capable of greatness." Ethan nodded calmly. "That is all any being can hope to carry: knowledge, courage, and the determination to act. Everything else follows from that." As they emerged from the central spire, the chamber behind them glowed in harmony, the energy flows stable and alive. Kaelara looked at the human with newfound respect. She had doubted him, mocked him, and assumed his failure. Now she realized the truth. Humans could achieve what others thought impossible, not through strength alone, but through intelligence, courage, and relentless observation. And in that moment, on the crystalline plains of Viralia, a new understanding was born, not just between a human and an alien, but between species, knowledge, and the limitless potential of courage and intelligence. Ethan looked at the horizon, the twin suns casting long shadows across the spires. He had come to explore, to learn, and to survive. He had done all that and more. He had shown that even a single human could face the impossible and emerge stronger, wiser, and respected. Kaelara stepped beside him, no longer an observer, no longer a critic, but an ally and witness to what had been accomplished. Together they looked out over the glowing plains, the energy of the planet humming beneath them, and the future stretched ahead, full of possibilities, understanding, and the promise of collaboration. For the first time, she realized that humans were more than clever. They were resilient, resourceful, and capable of changing the perception of an entire species. And in that quiet moment, she acknowledged something she had never admitted before. She had been wrong to mock him, and now she could only watch with respect as a human had carried knowledge, courage, and ingenuity further than any being had expected. The device hummed softly, the holographic map still glowing between them. It was more than a tool. It was a testament to what could be achieved when intelligence, courage, and patience worked together. And as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Ethan and Kaylara stood side by side. The future of exploration, understanding, and respect for one another's capabilities shining brighter than any crystal around them.